that's fine. Welcome to Momentum Monday. Today should be February 9th, 2020.
Let's count up the bets last week. I won the Super Bowl bet, correct? You've already Venmo'd me?
Yeah, I already paid you. I think you lost the other one. You haven't
Can
paid
we pull
yet.
up Rita? We had a bet on Rita.
Yes, let me share my screen.
It had a huge Monday, and then I think it gave it all back, Ivan.
Oh, I made 12% on that stock. And then, yes.
That's only my $5 bet. So let's just see. Yeah, you had a great call.
Yeah. So you owe me $5, Howard.
Are you sure?
I'm sure they finish up for the week.
Dude, that is like break even at best. That could be a push the first time ever on.
Why are you even arguing?
Well, how do we see what it was up on the week? Is that it? $5.60?
It was up on the week. Can't you see last week closing price?
That is like
very. I
have 54-year-old eyes. This could be you taking advantage of somebody.
This week closing price 224.
Hey, listen, don't anybody call me. Hang on, I'm paying you live on Momentum Monday. Is there anything to bet on right now? I got a little yip now from all these bets. Hang on, Venmo.
It's fine. It's fine.
No, I'm looking for a Venmo. I've never had to pay anybody. Hang on.
Really? Okay.
I got to send my kids money every day. Hang on one sec. I try and hide
it.
Okay,
let's do the show. You can do that later.
Well, you leave with the market. Oh, I'm paying you.
That's fine. My phone is turned off.
On Venmo?
I'm sorry?
Are you even on Venmo?
I am on Venmo. That's how I paid you. Okay, let's go back to the markets. That's not that important.
Go ahead. Start with the S&P. It was an interesting week, huh?
Resilient market for sure. It bounced right where it had to, near its 50-day moving average. 320 was a really important area, and it held. It gapped up on Monday, just when everyone was expecting that the market can drop significantly. You know, some say that it's because China's central bank provided a lot of liquidity, the Fed provided liquidity, and the fear of the coronavirus have dissipated. But either way, this market has proven to be extremely resilient. It's back near all-time highs, at least the S&P and the Nasdaq 100, which are the large cap indices. The Russell 2000 is not doing as well. So there are two interesting things about those new all-time highs that I want to point out. The first one is that there is a negative momentum divergence. So there are a bunch of, the market breadth did not confirm that new high.
Okay.
So, I mean, that doesn't mean that there will be a pullback, but because negative divergences sometimes get resolved through a sideways range. What I'm saying that just don't get super excited about the new breakout and start chasing it, because the market can just continue to chop in a sideways range as it usually does during the midst of earnings season, and we're still in the midst of earnings season. And the other interesting thing that I noticed is that rally was mostly led by laggards, by lagging stock. Many of the stocks that managed to
rally this last week, Ivan, or
last week. Yeah, I'm referring exceptionally for the last week, and many of the stocks that actually held well near their 52-week highs during that pullback, they didn't really rally. And on Wednesday, you know, when the market had another gap up here, as you can see, that actually quite a few of the software stocks, enterprise software stock, had a big down day. And people started talking that, you know, maybe this is a deja vu to what happened last September, October, when we saw a rotation from momentum to value. And as you remember, back then, while the market indices were just chopping in a wild range, but just going sideways, many of the enterprise software stock, which were richly valued, they had a significant 30% pullbacks at the time. I'm not saying it will happen again. I'm just saying that if we see that rotation, this is something to keep an eye on. I continue to pay very close attention to how the market is reacting to earnings. And so a couple of things that are making an impression on me is that last week we saw either 5 or 6 software stocks either gapping down or giving up their earnings gaps. So, I mean, for example, let's say Twilio, it sold off on earnings. Which are the other one? Newer, Paycom Software, the big players gap down.
That was a hot stock.
So all of them have gone up between 300 and 1,000% in the past 3 years, and they've already had 3 or 4 bases. And so if those strong stocks are starting to sell off on good news because they beat estimates, I'm starting to think that some of them might be topping out, of course. There are plenty of software stocks that are still looking great and are setting up for potential breakout, like Okta or
Okta is so expensive. I was in Silicon Valley, and these companies are expensive, but man, everybody who works at Google or whatever, and just follows these stocks, and these companies are just crushing Atlassian, Okta, Mongo.
They continue to have very impressive growth regardless of their high valuation, and as long as interest rates remain super low, that might continue, because in order to see that rotation from momentum to value, basically we need to see energy and financial stock rally, which it's hard to happen if interest rates don't go up. So there are
low interest rates. People are chasing growth.
There are a lot of mixed messages in the market right now. Of course, it's a stock pickers market. There are plenty of good setups on the long side, but there are also plenty of good setup on the short side. And
heavily short stocks have worked well for you, buying heavily short stocks. I mean, obviously the king of all those was Tesla this week.
Yeah, Tesla might have had a short-term blow-off top after those huge 2 gaps and going up.
Held pretty well though. Held pretty well.
So far it's holding pretty well. I'm thinking it'll test its 50-day moving average in the next two months, which means around 500. And of course it will have big bounces along the way, because studying past blow-off tops, this is what they typically do. They have a big pullback with big bounces, then they might go sideways for a couple months, and then from there, if they have another positive catalyst, they can rally again and test that.
If you live on earnings consistently at this point, because of their low margins, I think the stock will hold the.
Yeah, I'm not saying that this is the top. I mean, Tesla can easily consolidate again.
No, but you can look at that and just see 100 charts in history, and they all look the same after they blow off. So it would take a Herculean effort for this thing to close back above 900. I'd be surprised. But
and even if it does, it might probably come with a negative momentum divergence, which might be a short signal. But either way, Tesla definitely remains one of the main trading stocks in this market.
A couple that interest me is China. If this blows over, Baba and Tencent continue. I don't really care much about China other than these 2 companies. Tencent's had a really long base. It's back on my watch list here. It's been basing for almost 3 years, and completely conglomerated, perfectly situated media / platform / payments company / gaming. Just an incredible engine of growth potential. And look, they're gonna maybe earn close to $1.60 this year, compared to stocks trading 100 times earnings. Tencent just is interesting to me. I think it's one of those companies that'll be $1 trillion company. So you're not going to quadruple your money here holding this stock, but it's been in my 8 to 80 list, and I'm definitely itching to own that again. I kind of had given up on it 6 months ago, and as it breaks out here, it seems interesting with everything that we've thrown at China. Same thing with Alibaba. Bounced off 200. I don't care about the rest of the Chinese stocks. Like Alibaba is clouds and finance of China, and it's kind of untouchable. And it's pretty impressive how it's held despite China being shut down. I mean, it's a digital company, so I prefer Tencent because I understand, their global business better because they bought their way into the U.S. with gaming and moving into East Asia really well with WeChat and WePay. So that's an idea I'm looking at, kind of boring. And then the other one that I mentioned last week, you mentioned a couple biotechs, so we'll follow up on those, was AAXN, which broke out. I added some, talked about it last week. There's not a better looking base on base setup there. The volume's not great. It's kind of just been a tough stock to own, but I don't know, it something feels like there's a big move there. And it emerged nicely this week, Ivan, huh?
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
For relative strength, I don't know if this is more a buy the dip kind of thing, but I don't do that. So, I took a piece last week. I talked about it, and I'm working on.
Yeah, considering it has a very small float, 57 million.
CEO, founder, all the things I like. The guy's not going to leave. He knows the business better than anybody. The trends are great. As I said, we're never going to get rid of the NRA yet. Tasers and there are other businesses, the camera business that they bought, and the protection for cops and for the public is kind of in the public consciousness indirectly. So those I don't see much that I like. Obviously, I own Amazon, I own Apple, I own Facebook, I own Google. It's boring. All four of them, other than Facebook, I think they all basically close at all-time highs.
Yeah, they're all-time highs, and Amazon tried to break out again on Friday.
All-time highs. What's not to like? So in a market cap weighted world, you've got to. It's a stock. I think you're right, Ivan. Stock picking environment, but you got to have your market cap, and I prefer to just own, the ones that have the most growth potential. This will be a big week with Shopify, which is one of my positions. It's expensive, it's crazy. It'll be interesting to see how they continue to grow and how Wall Street. It's hard to buy this thing. I just have been riding it, but it's a big week for them. Big earnings number. This stock could move 100 points.
Yeah, quite a few software stocks report. The other one, AYX, also reports. Also has had an amazing move. I mean, it's up almost 1,000%, and setting up the all-time highs.
We talk about AI and big data. This AYX is kind of capitalizing those trends with real business.
Roku is the other momentum stock.
Yeah.
Reporting earnings.
I'm kind of bearish on Roku, but I always have been. So as a non-user, there was an interesting week in social with Facebook kind of imploding after earnings, and promising lower growth, and Snapchat, which was the darling last year, kind of giving up some of its momentum. Probably my favorite is Snap, but it's just Tencent. I don't know. Is it Tencent that I want to own, or Snap if I add another stock? I don't know. Twitter, I think, is going to surprise people and continue to disappoint. I don't see why it gapped up. They're running at peak. It couldn't get better for Twitter in terms of ad dollars and politics right now. It's all factored in. So I don't know what they got extra, but it was a nice rally on.
Even Uber gapped up.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. So this is the sneaky one. I've been out of the stock because I had some shares that I finally got rid of in the 30s. Back from early Uber days through a disbursement, but kind of wish I had held it. A lot of my friends did, and they're kicking Lyft's ass. I thought Lyft, relative to Lyft and kind of the sentiment, they are just kicking their butt. And if they can continue to do so in the US, I think their ownership, getting out of these other countries and just taking ownership and focusing on the US will work for Google. If we look at a Google chart, giving up on China was not the end of the world when they sold Baidu. Maybe they should have held their Baidu stock, and Uber does hold their Didi stock. I would say Google's biggest mistake was selling their Baidu stock. and when they gave up on China. Uber has not. So I think one of the big differences in the Uber Google story is that Uber has huge pieces of companies from South America, and it's a brand that's as recognizable in the United States as any brand after 8 years. So I don't own it, but pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. That earnings breakout came on a huge volume.
Well, anybody that could sell has sold, right? You've had the 6 months, you've had the negative press, you've had everything that this could throw out. Everybody knows they're going to burn money till the end of time. And granted, it is, lighting money on fire, but pretty interesting. Anything else stand out to you? The biotech rally, we talked about Amgen. I was saying that was probably a buy. I already own it, but that pulled back last week and it had a great, I think this will be the week of proof. Is that just a bounce?
Yeah.
Biotech.
Definitely. I think the next couple of weeks we need to see that bounce.
Rita did break out. That was a good call. Did you just swing trade it, or are you still?
Yeah, swing traded. We made 12% on it, and I sold it. As I saw it here on Wednesday, pulling back. So
very nice sell. It looks great. I don't know.
It's still looking good, by the way.
But it's had a hell of a run. Your other idea was Tandem, and your $5 is in your deposit. Go choke on it. Go buy a burrito.
I don't think it will be enough.
Still at $5 on the week.
Well, Tandem, it just continues to consolidate. I think as long as it holds above 75, I think 72.
Yeah, that company is obviously it's a war zone on the stock Twitch streams, but I mean that is a hell of a base.
Yeah. I mean, the other interesting thing that I wanted to mention is that I'm starting to see some semiconductor stocks giving up their earnings gap and starting to look pretty short opportunities.
Which ones?
I mean, so many of them are either having negative market reaction to earnings, or they're just giving up. They're just giving up their earnings gaps. So this is something to keep an eye on. That this sector, while it bounced, it's looking vulnerable.
Yeah, I don't know if that's just the China thing that will blow over. I'm just trying.
Yeah, I think it's all related to China mostly, but we'll see.
Hang on, I'm just looking at. I know I own one, and I'm having a senior moment. I'm just looking it up right now.
What do you own?
And it's held up there. It's been a little volatile at all-time highs, but it's held up. Oh my God, I'm looking it up. Teradyne.
Oh yeah, Teradyne. Yeah, let's see. Check them out. Yeah, exactly what I mean. They had a big earnings, 25%.
Oh yeah, I have been selling it on the way up. Okay.
And then 12-time highs, and it has given up that gap. That's what I mean. That this action is very interesting. It might be related strictly to China, or might be more than that. Qualcomm the same.
Yeah. I think. Listen, this is the last big week of earnings, so we'll know a little bit more at the end of this week. Okay. All right, we'll keep it short. Ivan, have a great week.
Right, you too, Howard.
And thanks, Marcus Smith, for the charts. All right, well, have a good week, Ivan. I'll see you.
All right, bye.